2 minutes. 2 minutes. One minute. 1 minute. Okay, are we ready? All right. And just to let everybody know, we are recording this so that anybody who wasn't here can watch. They won't be able to ask questions, but they will be able to watch. Hello, I am the Reverend Christopher Slane, for those of you who don't know me. I want to take just a second to introduce you to the packet of material that you have. We sent it out on Thursday, but now you should have a hard copy. The first thing that you'll notice is that on the front page it says St. Andrew's Building Project. It has an outline of the history of the project, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. On the back side of that, it's got renderings, basic renderings of the two different building options, along with about 5, what do we want to call them, pros and cons lists of the differences, comparisons between the two different building options. You would have seen these when we did the vote earlier. After hearing from all of you, we decided that we would take the results of that vote and come and do this today, because a lot of people needed more information. The second page, what you'll see the letter that I read to you during my sermon, which is from the Evanston Community Council. It was part of our application for the Neighborhood Catalytic Capital Investment Grant, which we won. We got $85,000 for pre-development for this project. So that includes the architecture, the environmental studies, making sure that all of the plots of land that are involved are the same property, those kinds of things. So that was a beautiful letter. It made me cry the first time I read it. I don't know how you felt when I was reading it, but oof. And then on the back, we got a letter from Found House, which is our building partner that will be doing the housing. And I put this on here because it has a case of one family that has benefited from being part of Found House. So I just wanted everybody to see and have a clear picture of who it is that we are trying to serve. Because we will be serving families like this. So that's what you have in your hand. So that's our kind of meeting. Do you want to talk through the parameters of the meeting?
Yeah. So one of the important things that we're trying to drive to a close in this meeting is which option we're going to move forward with. As Father Chris said earlier, you've already looked at a few of them, but we have to drive this to a decision so that we can move forward with the city, because they won't evaluate two different options. They want one option that the zoning department will then determine any additional requirements that they want to see for the site. So we won't go too much in detail into those buildings. If we want to talk the pros and cons of them, I do have that list as well in a presentation format, so we can discuss that. But yeah, so that's what we're trying to do here, drive that to a decision. All
right. So the The next part of the agenda is, I think it was really helpful when we discussed with the vestry, and we had a couple of people come and visit the vestry who had some pretty significant questions. And one of the things that really helped was having a sense of the history of the project, because a lot went into it. About 3 or 4 years of work went into it before it even came to us. So I'm just gonna, you can read along. I'm just gonna hit some of the highlights. So many of you will remember that in 2014 that the church tried to start a building project with DNK Architects. You can actually, if you go into the library, you can still see the results of that. There are renderings of what the church was supposed to maybe look like from that time. We also undertook a $300,000 capital campaign, which was supposed to be matched by the Diocese of Southern Ohio. When I came to the church in 2019, during COVID, nobody else was here. I just came to the building because I'd never been here before. And we had the graphic of, when you're doing a building campaign, of the thermometer. And out of $300,000, I think it was at 28 or 29. And then COVID hit. So I was like, okay, well, when we come back from being out from COVID, we don't need to see that. So that's where St. Andrews has been as far as building projects, because we all know that this building, as much as we love it, I mean, you can look here and see where water has come down in the past. We know every 2 years we have to fix the roof so that water doesn't come into the chapel or downstairs. Every year. Oh, sorry. Rick says every year. So it's been part of the community's understanding that this building is in such a way that we probably needed to replace it. So I want to tell you about the other partners in the project. So in 2018, my wife, the Reverend Melanie Slane, she was hired as the assistant rector for mission at Church of the Redeemer in Hyde Park. And one of her biggest thing was that over the next 5 years, she gathered partners, Found House, IHN, the Interfaith Hospitality Network. She gathered a model group for a well-known and respected construction group. They do all-around services. They've done a lot of affordable housing. They also do kind of regular market rate housing. They're very well respected in Cincinnati. She got Chatrick Architecture, our friend Lastavian, and our friend Jaipal Singh was kind of Melanie's original contact. He passed away from cancer a few years ago. It really sad, but we're incredibly grateful to Chatrick for continuing this partnership with us in his memory. And then, of course, Church of the Redeemer in Hyde Park. So they're also one of our partners, and they've been active. All of the architectural drawings that we have so far that have gotten us to this stage have been paid for by Church of the Redeemer. So they were supposed to have a site in Madisonville. The Church Redeemer owned a site in Madisonville. It became unworkable to use that site because of vested interests in the community. It was a church building that they owned, and the people who went to church there did not want to lose their building. And so Church of the Redeemer said, okay, they listened. And that's the point when Melanie came to me in 2024, I think, and said, do you think St. Andrews would be interested? So I brought it to the vestry, and the vestry said, let's ask the congregation. But yeah, we do need a new building, and it sounds like a great project. So that got us to 2024. What we've done recently is, and Lastavian's going to show you some of the pictures, but we bought a property that's straight behind the church. If you were to walk 100 feet that way and up a 10-foot wall, we own 2 properties right next to each other. One of them has a house and one of them is an empty lot. The diocese paid, what did they pay? They paid $90,000. We paid $30,000. So it was an 80-20 split, and they helped us buy the second property. The other one we've owned for about 10 years. And so this is that property is this one right here. It's an old house, nobody's living in it, it's not really habitable because it's got lead paint and asbestos stuff in the basement, and anyway. So you see, this is our church building right here, and then the properties are right here. This is the house that we own, and that's the empty lot that we own. So in April 2025, Chatrick gave us the renderings that you all have seen, that you have in your papers. These are very basic renderings, and Lestavian is going to show you examples of what a more shovel-ready thing would look like. So all that to say that if you look at them and you're like, I don't know, that's not quite what I had in mind, no, we just want you to know that it's going to get more detailed and it's going to evolve, so it won't look exactly like the way it is. This is just to give us an idea of what a 2-building or 1-building build will look like. And then that leads us to today. We're here, December 7th, 2025. So Found House's role, and we had a meeting with them. Of course, some of their month-to-month funding is in question because of the current administration and the dismantling of the housing urban development. Some of that is going on. We'll see how that works with the courts. But what we've discussed with Found House, and they run Melrose Place, which is an apartment building our vestry has been to, and that's just down here on Melrose in Walnut Hills. It's not too far from where their building is, also in Walnut Hills. So they're very close to us. And they're running 25 units in that building, and they have done since 2022. And they're moving away from a model where they house people at churches and synagogues, which has been their model for 35 years. Because during the pandemic, they had to put everybody in hotels. And that was not financially sustainable. So it's better for them to have spaces where if a lockdown of some sort happened again, they wouldn't have to kick people out or find hotel rooms. So that's one of the big drivers for their side of this. They would actually run the housing. We would not be in charge of running any housing. And I think that's really important to say.
I think it's also important to mention that, Found House, I mean, they're pretty respected by the city and kind of the interfaith community for doing this. As Father Chris said earlier, they focus on really getting people out of homelessness. So any families that are going through any issues, they work with them to find housing. And I believe they had the data I looked at said that they had I think it was an 82% rate of getting people out of temporary housing into permanent housing through their different programs. And they have different, and it's not just housing, they have other programs as well to help the people develop whatever things that they need to get permanent housing.
Yeah, so they have wraparound services. And of course, things that we do, like our Justice Hub and our after-school program, will fit great into that. We'll have like kids living here that will need those kinds of programs. So we're actually preparing the way for this new life that we're going into already.
All right, so now, so in terms of, I'll keep wanting to say pastor, as Father Chris was saying, I grew up Southern Baptist, so it's gonna happen every now and then. Oh, I was in the pool. Yes. So as Father Chris said earlier, what we showed before were really proof of concepts. So whenever we have to, you know what? I didn't actually put the examples of renderings in here, but whenever we have to, in this case, we rendered a little early just so that you guys could, so to prove the concept that we could do this, that we could have a church and a building as one building, and it can still feel like a church, and it doesn't feel like a like an apartment building or some commercial structure. But as we develop the design, that's going to change. So currently, we're in what's called it's kind of a pre-design programming phase, really, where we're trying to understand the needs, get those needs on paper, see how big of a building that's going to require, and then from there, that's when we start layering in a lot of the other details. That's what type of mechanical systems you're going to need, what's the actual exterior material going to be, what's it going to look like on the inside. In order to get to that next stage, as I was saying earlier, the real first step is to make sure that we have full buy-in and approval from Cincinnati's Community Development Zoning Department. That is really the big hurdle that we're trying to get past here now. And once we get through that piece is really when we're gonna design into the process of this building more kind of touch points with you all, so that we can make sure that you all are engaged in the process, and so that you don't feel like we're moving on ahead without you, that we're making decisions without you, so that you're involved in that process. What was next? And just so you know, although this is a new idea, it's pretty recent. There are people who have been experimenting with this type of project where they combine churches and housing on the same property. So although we aren't in a big group of people that have done this, you are in good company. So a few of those projects, I pulled a few of them together just so you guys could see, and granted, some of them are way out there in terms of design. I know yours is going to be a lot more conservative. There's this project called St. Paul's Terrace, where in South Berkeley, California, they have this church where they partner with the city to build affordable housing on the property. This is 82 units, so that's the one on the left. Here on the right, this is a First Baptist Church, I believe in Toronto, where they actually sold the air rights over their building so that this structure next door could actually start to take over some of that space, just so they can build as many units as they needed to. A few others, there's actually a group called the Damascus International Fellowship, who have been working with different universities and kind of developing projects along, doing the exact same thing and kind of experimenting there in colleges with this idea as well. So this is one of the students' projects. And then there's a church in, I think these folks are, this is St. Margaret's Episcopal in Trotwood, Ohio. Back in 2001, they were looking to actually build a lot of senior housing on their property, and this was the plan for their development. So, I mean, a lot of folks are really looking into this, and these are examples of renderings. So here's the type of renderings that I showed. This is all conceptual. This is, hey, we don't really exactly know what we're going to do yet, but here's an idea. But what you can expect towards the end are things that are a lot more, starting to look a lot more photoreal. Like, here are the renderings of what we've done for hotels, homes. I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see them. More hotels. So these are all different projects that we've designed and rendered. So when you start to see things that look like this is when you're going to know that we're really getting closer to the finish line. So before I move on, are there any questions about kind of concept or where we are in the design process right now? Yes. You in the back first, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Ann.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, Ann.
So is there affordability-wise, which way is it cheaper to build it? Two buildings or one? Which way is it more sustainable financially? In other words, where does it become more energy efficient? Two buildings or one?
So one building will be more energy efficient. It will be more, and Model Group actually did a preliminary cost analysis of this, and they said that you'd save about 5% in your budget if you go with one building, which is for a project of this scale is around $1.5 million, I think.
That's what you said, or that's what the project.
Yeah, about 5. You'll save 5%. So the number I gave was the savings amount. Yeah. So in terms of efficiency, one building is the way to go because you can combine utilities and things. Well, you can more centralize utilities. You can have a smaller envelope, so exterior walls cost money, and making sure that they're insulated costs money. So if you have two buildings, you've got a lot more wall to build like that. So one structure is a lot more efficient. Yes. Was that sir?
Yeah, I wanted to know what information you had or what scope of possibilities you're dealing with for the occupants of the housing and the users of the church facility. In other words, how many people would live in the housing and how many people would the church facility accommodate at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning?
Great question. So for the apartments, we're looking for we're targeting 37 to 39 units of low-income housing. So and that's spread out between 3, 2, and 1-bedroom units. In terms of the size of the of the church and how many people it can seat, I think we were was it 200 at one point? Let me go to the program. I've got this written down. One sec. So we were targeting parish hall, community space, worship space. So it was going to be about 2,000 square feet. So that's about enough for about 200 people.
In the worship space.
Yes.
So, Father Chris, when is the last time 200 people were using this facility?
That's a good question. We'll get a little bit over 100 for funerals sometimes. But we don't want the space to be too small because then you can't grow. So the plan is to grow. Will we grow to 200 a Sunday? I mean, that'd be great, wouldn't it? I'm not sure what this space would do. At least 175, I would guess. I mean, we're talking about a space that'll be roughly this size, I think. It might be a little smaller, but also when we're talking about interior spaces, we'll have to make decisions about, are we going to put pews in this area? Or are we going to do different kind of seating so that we could actually utilize the space a little bit differently, so that a space that could sit 200 would be set up for 100, and so it wouldn't feel like you're just in this massive place where nothing's being used. Like maybe the back of the church has other things, like maybe somebody's doing an art project or something. Who knows? But yeah.
One concern I've heard is where is the piano and the organ and the choir going to fit into all of this?
That I'll let LaSaven take that.
So we'll get into those type of interior details and programming in the next phase. So we are aware that we got to find a place for all of those people, but that is not where we are in the process quite just yet. Who went first? All right.
There will be space for all of it. Yeah.
It's part of the program. You will have your organs and everything and all that stuff you want.
Yeah. Kat.
Hi. My question is, versus a single building and 2 buildings, you indicated the number of units will be 37 to 39. Are you allowing for parking in this building
Yeah, so right now, we have really very limited parking dedicated to residents because with low-income housing and the zoning code, they don't require us to provide that. I believe the assumption is that a lot of the people that will be using those homes will be using public transportation. So really, it's going to be up to the community to allocate how much of that ultimately, like when church isn't happening, how much of that parking gets dedicated to them, and how you kind of schedule that with the residents.
How many spaces do we have now?
That's a good question. I don't know. The answer-
Right now, we have,
We share with the building?
Yeah, so actually, Dr. Clemens building right here, the spaces immediately behind that are technically belong to that building. So actually, part of the plan in both the one building and two building option, that parking stays there actually. And there's
Yes.
an easement from the parking in either building will be right where our church is. Right, this space right here, and the reason that we bought the spaces back there is for parking, not really for building. And so the one building option has more parking because the whole site is just on the corner. So then all of this is parking, or most of it. The two building option, part of the building, that second building goes all the way to Clarendon. Yeah.
On that and ask about on-street parking. Is there, because we do have some on-street, what is the plan there? Is there, does that provide for additional parking or is that spoken for in your design?
my design really doesn't go into street parking. That's really just as the city currently has it dedicated. And I know that there are things you can do with them to dedicate part of the street for church parking, but I mean, that's really, you have to work with the city for that.
I got it, I'm back here.
Yes.
So, I'm a proponent for the two-building solution initially, but based off the parking, based off the cost, it appears that the one-building solution, if you look at the pros and cons of each, would be the better solution. My only concern, the parking is an issue, but 30 spaces for the two-building solution, 50 spaces for the one-building solution. Parking on the street is the overflow, so we have to hit Montgomery and then Rutland and then possibly Clarion behind us. And as you can see, Rutland is just packed with the residents that live here. So we would have to somehow communicate and control the use of the parking during Sundays with the residents that live on the property. My only concern about the one building solution is interior design. The acoustics have to be that our music doesn't bother the apartments, and any music that they play or any activity from their children doesn't bother our service. So that's my biggest concern. Okay, so I just want to share that.
Yeah, and with acoustics, I mean, there are a lot of strategies that we can use to address that. So there are ways that we can build walls so that, and ceilings so that the vibrations or impacts that happen either up above, like if some kids run around, somebody's walking on high heels, so that those impacts don't come down into the church. And there are ways that we can deafen some of that low frequency sound as well, that comes from the organ, whether that's through adding more mass into the system with more layers of drywall, or using different materials that allow, that kind of absorb that sound within the space. So to put it short, we've heard that concern and we're aware of it, and we have plans to actually work, if we can work within the budget, to work within an acoustician. I cannot say the word right now, y'all. An acoustician. There you go. To actually help us design that, to make sure that we address that concern, because we don't want somebody who's working a night shift to be woken up in the morning because of the church organ, and so on. So yeah. Yes, sir.
Point right below the dampening acoustic transmission would be easier with option one, but option two certainly would be that.
Yes.
Yeah, not as big of a problem because the housing won't be over the church building, it'll be next to it.
Both options have basement space.
Neither option has a basement space.
Question?
Yeah,
Not
if
the
both
ba-
options have a basement, he asked if both options have a basement space. Neither option has a basement, but we have covered the program that was in the basement on the floors above. So you're not losing space, essentially. Yes, sir.
I just had Rick ask a question that I thought it'd be a good idea for people to understand. If you haven't been over to Fallon House, that's a 4-story building. What is the 30 unit that you're talking about? Is that 4 stories or is it 3 stories?
So that will be 4 stories. Yes, essentially, we're going to have 2 stories of the church, and then 4 stories on top of that, which is going to be the apartments.
The other comment was, for people who are not over here during the week, and what you see on Sunday, there is 0 parking out on Montgomery Road and Rutland Avenue, per se. I mean, you can only get maybe 4 or 5 cars if you get here in time, because the neighborhood controls, or they need all of that parking, and they are, with our permission, using our parking lot. So there's a lot of community parking in this parking lot during the week, which I don't know if this building design is going to allow for that or not, because it's going to be pulled in a direction that they won't be able to see. They now use our parking lot as a drive. So they come from Montgomery Road, come right on into Rutland and run on down the street. So that's what we got going on now. So I don't know what's going to happen, but we definitely need more than 50 parking spaces.
Gotcha. So because of you're thinking that we're going to need more parking because of the community. You say we're definitely going to have. Oh yes.
To satisfy the fact that the neighborhood is changing, and more people are moving in, and whatever little parking is out there, they're gonna get.
Yeah.
You're not gonna put a sign out here and say we need 10 parking spaces, and then we have it's not an issue, but you have the seniors building right across the street. And I think some of those people might be using parking along this Rutland too. So it's just a parking, it's a real
Yeah.
parking issue right now. So in the future, I just think that you're gonna need
all of it.
the church needs to provide for itself, and then figure out what the neighborhood, what we can offer to the neighborhood.
Yeah, I agree with you, Vincent. So right now, yeah, we have people parking in the parking lot. It hasn't affected us on Sundays too much. And also, when we put our signs out for our community events, we put them out a day in advance and say, at this time, we need the parking lot to be emptied. Our neighbors have been really good. So when we did the trunk or treat, almost the whole parking lot was empty by the time we were, setting up for the trunk or treat. So
That's too far from when we did Caribbean Festival and
Caribbean Fe-
everything in the parking lot.
we have a long history of working with the neighborhood and saying, we need the parking for funerals. We need the parking lot, and our neighbors have been really good about doing that. The thing that I'm concerned about a little bit because of the drug traffic in our neighborhood and moving the parking lot from very visible to a little invisible, and especially with having parking that goes all the way from Rutland all the way to Clarion, is that during the week, we're probably gonna need some sort of solution to make sure that people can't just drive straight through, right? There's gonna have to be some sort of gate or something to separate the upper parking from the lower parking, just so that people can't just drive through. And, we'll just let Cincinnati police know, like, this is the new arrangement because the city is making us build on the corner. There's no option to build back here and keep the parking lot. The city wants the buildings on the corner. It's part of their development plan for the Northern Business District, so that was one of their stipulations.
Little
Yeah, so you have them here, and I think, LaSavian, you have it up, in this, yeah, there you go.
Mary Carol, you have some questions?
I think it's kind of about answered, but I'm not positive.
The environmental questions about green space on the roof
Oh, yeah.
and LEED,
Yeah.
all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Mr. Lestavian, can you address environmental concerns and the potential for either play space or green space on the top?
Gardening, family gardening was what I was thinking about, tomato plants and stuff.
So, here are the two options, and I can address that. So I can address both of y'all questions here. So here are the two plan options, option 1 and option 2. 2 buildings, 1 building. 30-something parking spaces, 50 parking spaces. Option 2 does have a lot more greenery on site. So if there are spots that you wanted to try to have gardens, whether that's here along at the what I'm calling the rear of the building, the back side, there are opportunities there. There are along this part. Really, these are the kind of green space that we have really around the parking lot. We have a few green spaces along the street as well. I mean, are you guys looking for more green space for that type of use, or?
My concern was how are we gonna make use of the green space? Are we gonna have some solar panels up there?
Mhm.
Solar panels can even be above gardens if they're high enough to get enough sun. If you don't, if it's not solid solar panels, but if there's spaces. I wanted to see how the roofs are being used.
I see. Yeah, we
Ecologically concerned,
yeah, gotcha.
There's some people at Redeemer who have asked similar questions as well.
Yeah, and so we have not gotten to the point where we figured out the exact roof system and whether that's going to be, you know, some type of green roof or anything like that, and we have not figured out like exactly where all the plantings are going, but that's what this meeting's for, to capture these type of concerns and questions.
the use of that space is one, the ecological use.
You wanna make sure that
Yeah.
the top of the building isn't just like a flat space that's not doing anything.
Right.
Yes.
Like we have today.
Yeah.
Hey, so I do have a question. This may be a curveball, okay? But we have this beautiful basement downstairs. Is there any way to preserve that area for access, for storage, and other activities? Since the parking lot will be above it, is there any way, does it make even, like I said, it's a curveball, you have to answer today. But if there's a way to preserve that underground space, since it's already there, it could facilitate our use for storage, especially for pantry. And now that, especially with the church, has only got the surface level access, and there really isn't available space.
I wouldn't do that, because since it's gonna be a parking lot above it, you're gonna have to invest a good bit of money just to have a roof above that, like to rebuild a roof above it that can support however many cars can fit above that basement space. Now, we are planning for storage specifically for, like separate storage specifically for the food pantry area. So if there are other storage needs that we have, let's hear them now so that we can bake it into the floor plans when we get into the detailed design. Yes.
That's gonna be critical. You can go downstairs and see what, that's our school.
Mhm.
I don't know if the school can actually be held in the same space of the worship area.
So, I mean, we have classroom spaces in the program, we have community spaces in the program, we have a parish hall in the program. So a lot of those spaces are just coming out of the basement. So they'll either be on the ground floor or the second floor of the church.
Just when you do doing dimensions, rethink about that when we get to that, because like I said, if there was a way to preserve that, because you, just imagine, to that wall, to this wall, is all
Yes.
one.
Yeah,
And so now we're gonna be driving across that, and so if we was a way to preserve it, that would be something to think about. Like I said, it'd be a challenge architecturally, but it could be done,
yeah, that's a good point, that we do need those spaces. So if you look, actually in like the one building option, I feel like this space right here that we have is about half that building. Which means the other half, instead of having it below us, it would just be next. So it'd be like having the basement space here.
Isn't there also a second floor?
There's a second floor with offices and things like that, yeah. So the only thing that doesn't have a second floor is the worship space, because we want the worship space to be 2 stories high in here, because we like the tall ceilings. So yeah, so it'll be 2 stories on this half, and then all of the parish hall space. And we based the numbers that I gave him for Lastavian for square footage were based on the DNK design that was made 14 years ago. So all those spaces that were part of that building were kind of the basic idea of the space that the church needed, and so that's kind of what we based the idea of square footage on. It's underneath the building.
So there's like 8 spaces here, there's a shared parking lot, and then there's only another, sorry. So his question was, where's the parking on option 1? Option 1 has about 8 spaces right here in front of the building, another 9 spaces here, and then the rest are that shared parking area. And a lot of that just gets cut in because we got this giant building taking up a lot of that area.
None of it's underground.
None of it's underground.
But the building hangs over some of it.
And both options have the same number of housing units?
Yes, they have a same number of units. She asked if both options have the same number of housing units. They both have the same number of housing units, although there's a slightly different mix of, is it this many 2-bedroom versus 3-bedroom? Yes, sir.
The buildings that we currently own that are on Claring, do you want those out of them?
Yeah, they'd be here and here. So this is an empty lot, and this is where the house is.
Yes, ma'am.
Would it be possible to have the solar panels, if there were solar panels, over the parking lot, if you free the roof for a green roof and a community garden?
Yes, that's possible. Yes. Yeah. Green, whether we do a green roof or a solar roof or a normal roof, I mean, it really is going to be budget dependent because those systems require a level of investment. So, I mean, there are systems that have kind of shading. If you've been to Cincinnati Zoo, they have the solar panels that shade the parking lot, and you can put like you said, you can put it on the roof.
Excuse us, we have to leave.
No, no problem.
We're voting for option 2.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
Can you, to the extent that you can, right now, can you dimensionalize what, you specified that the division between the housing units and the church would be a little greater with option 1. For option 2, can you just try to help me to understand what that separation looks like? How does that separation work?
So.
Do they have a separate entrance? Do they have, how does that whole thing?
Yes, so in both options, we would separate the entries for both, for the different uses. So the church, you'd have a separate entrance, and you'd probably have one at the front of the church and one at the back. The apartments would have really mainly one main entry at the back of the building, but they would have to have some additional stairwells that lead out for emergency exiting in case of a fire. In terms of, for the separation from the church and the apartments for option 1 is really just space. So we have a few different areas that they kind of overlap, but most of that is just separated because they aren't in proximity. But it's really going to be a specially designed floor system that separates the church from the apartments above for option 2. for acoustics and things, all the stuff that I was saying before about, you know, we have to design a special floor so that you don't get all that sound. Yes. I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry. She's had her hand up a few times. Ma'am?
Well, so just two things, and they're not related to one building versus two, but in the project, I'm from another part of the country, and I've been affiliated with projects like this tangentially. The one building option has worked great in every experience that I've had. The thing that could happen for us, and I think part of what we have to be really careful in our conversations about is if we really want to open ourselves up to the community, then maybe part of the design is that some of like our parish hall space, if you will, becomes a space that can be jointly used, you know, by the residents if they want to have residents meeting or something, that there is a level of sharedness about the
Yeah.
space. And I think that's really critical for us instead of having proprietary space. We need to be willing to share our space with the people who live in that building in appropriate ways.
Yeah.
And because
And safe church ways.
in safe church ways, but also just in terms, you know, if somebody wants to have, you know, a cranky fest, no, because we are cranky people, but, you know what I'm saying, it's just we figure out a way to share that space, so I think that's really, really important for us to consider, and to consider in the design of the building. The second thing, I just wanna say to you all, I lived in a mixed-use building for 4 years, and it was low-income housing. The first floor was businesses. It was a high-rise. First floor was all business. The diocese had its offices in there. Floors 2 through 16 were Section 8 housing. Floors 17 through 21 were luxury apartments. Okay? And I lived in 19. Totally separate entrances. The office for the building was between the two of us. We had 2 separate lobbies, and the design worked great. I will tell you, the only time that we were stunned was we moved in, and on the 4th of July, one of the neighbors from the Section 8 housing stood out on a balcony, and we had our windows open, and she let loose the Star Spangled Banner at the top of her voice at 6 o'clock in the morning from her balcony, and then a few expletives to go with it. So, I mean, that's the extent of the interaction.
Mhm.
It's really, you know, and I had to work to interact with, I literally walk around the building to even encounter people who live downstairs.
Time check, Father, is 12:25.
Okay. Bangles are fine.
All right, and thank you for that.
Townhouse, 'cause I know there are places, in Walnut Hills, is the low-income housing more of a permanent thing, or is it what they usually do in the other building where it's temporary, and then they're working with the city for them to get Section 8?
So we've been, I met with Stacy last week. Some of it depends on what they do with HUD.
I know, it does turn into being more permanent,
Our-
permanent-ish, because it's hard for them to get them.
Our plan is to do permanent supportive housing, which usually looks like, people staying for about 2 years until they get their feet under them. So it's really about building sustainability. So that's the plan. Unfortunately, as with a lot of things with this administration, the best way to do things is not the way that they want to do it. Like the scientifically proven best ways to do things don't always turn out to be the ones that they want to do. So permanent supportive housing is actually usually the more successful way to do things, having people stable for 2 years so that they can build up savings, so they can do first and last month rent and move out on their own. But HUD is moving more towards the other model of just it's more of a emergency kind of like, and then you do like month to month kind of thing. So we don't know what that'll look like. I think it's really important to say that at this point, we're also waiting on tax credits. It's gonna be really critical how tax credits go. And so we're just trying to do one step at a time, and our next faithful step is to try and get this project to a place where it's shovel ready, so when everything would come together, we would be ready to go. And that could be a year, it could be 2 years, it could be 5 years. There are things out of our control, so we're trying to control the things that are in our control. The thing that's in our control is being ready to go when everything else falls into place. Yeah.
I was gonna say, at convention,
Mm-hmm.
there were so many people who were interested in this project.
Yeah.
And in assisting us with funding.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of creative financing, just all kinds of stuff that, people were throwing out there. And so I got the impression that, this isn't gonna be like the old days where, pastor is asking for, the building.
Yeah.
Let's
Pastor needs a Learjet, everybody pass the basket around again.
that kind of thing. So I was really encouraged by the fact that, there seems to be funding.
Yeah. We have support from Redeemer, the diocese, the bishop, Calvary Church in Clifton. The city just promised us $85,000. And when they do a pre-development grant like that, they expect that your development is gonna go well and that you're gonna be coming back to ask for more money. The neighborhood has already, every time we talk about a building project at the neighborhood meetings, they have TIF funds, which are some tax money goes to the individual neighborhoods so that they can give money to projects that they wanna see happen in their neighborhood. It's called the TIF fund, and every time we're voting on like giving money out of TIF funds, everybody's always like, don't worry, Father Chris, there will be some when you guys come. So the neighborhood really wants to see this happen, as you can see from the letter that they gave us. So, yeah, John.
Are there elevator systems in option 2?
There will be elevators, we would have to have elevators in both options. Yes.
A separate one for church in terms of a 2-story, and then another separate elevator for the apartment.
Yes, sir.
Which will make us, and also having it on one floor will make us way more accessible for people who have accessibility issues. Cindy?
Would the pantry and the church share kitchen facilities, or would those be separate? I know we would need a dishwasher, which we don't have in the church right now.
I think right now. So the question was if the food pantry and the church would share kitchen facilities. Right now in the plan, there is one kitchen, so I believe we would share. And I guess we can talk about if that's the way you guys can see yourself working with the space in the future.
Appliances, I think, would be,
Yeah, we'll figure out
the appliances we can figure out pretty easily, I think. But yeah, we share all the space. So one of the great things about either of these options is that we asked Lastavion to make sure that the people who are waiting for the pantry will be able to wait inside. And that there will be enough pantry space so that they're not having to use that room and downstairs rooms and closets and stuff like that. That it would be a pantry built for the pantry.
And the kitchen built to actually cook in?
Well, we'll have to get all the appliances. But yes, a kitchen that would be usable and freezer space that would be usable.
So in future meetings, what I'd want to do is sit down with you all, look at the space that you currently use, and really dive down into what are the pain points, what you hate, what you love about it, so that we can incorporate that into the design. So if you don't like the style of if you need the dishwasher, we can talk about what type of dishwasher do you need. If you need a different type of oven, if you need to go more commercial with your equipment, we can start to have those conversations and essentially pull together the equipment list that'll get you the space to serve effectively. We haven't gotten that far with the contractor yet. We just set budgets at this point. It'll be likely a few years if I had to guess. It's a complicated structure.
Well, I'm saying in terms of the difference between the two options, is it all about the same, or one is another 6 months to a year than the other?
It'd probably be longer to build option one, especially without all that exterior wall. By how much, I don't know.
Are there any other questions? Yeah, Vincent.
Found House have to raise their own funds, isn't that a separate?
Yeah,
budget?
yeah. So,
Not related to the church budget, so that's the part, when we talk about two separate buildings or one building, it does make a difference as to how all of this can take place. How can you do a combined building and two entities are raising funds? Whereas I understood the
yeah,
separate building was possible for us to build a church, and then the Found House would be working on, or it didn't have to happen at the same time. That's probably not true, because I know there's joint
yeah. Well,
some things that are going on. But it's still, I want people to understand about the funding, that there's two portions of this funding that have to come together
yeah.
for this project to move ahead.
That's right. So Found House will be funding the housing. We and our church partners will be funding the church. We actually are dealing with that a little bit with the city, because the pre-development funds, since they have a separation of church and state, we have to work with them so that the funds that they're giving us are not used on church stuff. So they're gonna have to give us some sort of percentage or something, and we'll get a matching grant or something like that to do the rest. But yeah, they'll be technically separate, but we haven't looked at all how we're gonna bring a development corporation, or Found House already is a 501c3, and they already have kind of those stable like accounts for these kind of capital things. That's something we'll have to work out with the chancellor of the diocese and with the lawyers from Found House, but that's something we have to work out, and we'll have to work it out sooner rather than later, because we're about to get $85,000 to put somewhere.
I think it's also fair to say that without the new community housing, there's not a new church.
Correct. That's correct.
Yes.
Yep. Mhm.
Hey, so can we give the stadium a big hand? 'Cause
Yeah.
this is architect.
Yeah. So the question is, do we feel comfortable that we would be able to vote on one of the options?
Yes.
And then, so I think what we should do is, well, we already know the Post said that they prefer option 2, but we'll do a hand count. Is that okay? And then I'll also have Mrs. Harris send out a thing to the people who weren't here on the email, so that if people want to vote by email, that they can. Does that sound fair? All right. So can we get, if you prefer the 2 building option, will you raise your hand? Okay. If you prefer the 1 building option, would you raise your hand? Okay, let's count. So what are you? You're abstaining. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 17 here, and who's abstaining? 18, sorry. And then Mary Carol's abstaining. Okay. And all right. So it was pretty much unanimous. We will reach out to the folks who aren't here, so that they can have their voices heard. But
Will you be able to repeat everything?
to repeat everything for them, well, I will ask if they have any questions. And we'll send this out. This is gonna be on our YouTube channel right now. So if they're really curious, hi, for those of you who watched. All right, so we'll plan to give Lastavian the final verdict by next week. All right. All right. The Lord bless you and keep you, make his face to shine upon you, and be merciful unto you. Houday.
Amen.